He is the UKIP MP for Clacton. Good evening.
Hi.
What's your gut feeling about where this is going? Do you think David Cameron's flying home tomorrow with a great deal for Britain? Well,
of course, some sort of deal has been done, but it's not really a great deal because we haven't really asked for much. Take a step back. At the time of the Bloomberg speech, David Cameron said that he was going to seek a fundamental, far-reaching reform. He clearly hasn't. Not even the Europhiles pretending that this amounts to much. He promised us that he was going to see treaty change. He hasn't. He was promising us that he was going to return powers back from Brussels. Not a single power is being transferred. So, clearly a deal has been done, but it's a pretty thin gruel, you might say. And I don't think this is really going to impress many voters in the run-up to the referendum.
And if you think it's that thin gruel, then presumably, do you feel that the British public, assuming it's June the 23rd, will vote to pull out?
I think they will. We're starting to see some very encouraging movement in the polls. The momentum is certainly with the Leave campaign. And I think, yes, we can do this. I think there's a growing realisation that actually we don't need to be in a political union in order to trade with Europe. Europe faces enormous economic, technological, demographic challenges. We are best placed, the safer thing to do is if we take back control. And I think people are beginning to realise that actually David Cameron's New Deal doesn't add up to a row of beans, and we would be better off if we took back control and didn't have to send £350 million to Brussels every week.
I was talking a little earlier to Lord Mandelson, of course, a former EU commissioner. His argument was actually what David Cameron might be able to get is good for the whole of Europe. This is not just about the UK. Everyone benefits. He said you can't see it in isolation. There are lots and lots of member states who want to convince their public that the European Union is functioning better, that it's functioning more efficiently for everyone's benefits. He said actually everyone would win from that, and that could be a convincing argument, couldn't it?
Well, European commissioners, ex-European commissioners, tend to make whatever noises suit the agenda of the integrationists. I think we'd be better off listening to Lord Kinnock, who this morning on the Today programme, I think, made it quite clear that even he, as a Europhile, doesn't think that this deal adds up to much. Look at what David Cameron is negotiating and compare it with what he said at the outset he was going to seek. He claimed he would get treaty change. There's no treaty change. He claimed there'd be a transfer of power back from Brussels to Britain. Not a single power has been transferred back. Again and again, David Cameron has watered down his demands, and even the mediocre amount that he's asking for, it doesn't really add up to much. There's no fundamental far-reaching reform in this deal. People are waking up to that, and I think people realise that actually we can leave the European Union and trade freely with the European Union. And if we do that, we will get the best of all worlds.
But Lord Kinnock in that interview did also talk at some length about the business case, the economic case. He said it's very important in terms of trade, jobs, for Britain to be part of it.
It's certainly important for jobs from the point of view of a former European commissioner. But I think it would be wiser to look at, for example, people like Neil Woodford. He is entrusted by hundreds of thousands of Britons to look after their life savings. He's a highly respected figure in the fund management industry, and he's made it very clear that he doesn't see a real downside to leaving the European Union. If you look at the case made by Business for Britain, you can see that more and more business people are coming to the view that actually we don't need to be in a political union to trade with Europe. At the moment, we're sending £350 million every week to Brussels. If we leave the EU, we don't have to do that. Think of what we could do with that money. That's 60 times what we spend on the NHS Cancer Fund.
Well, Douglas Carswell, we will be discussing this plenty more in the coming days and weeks.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.